Continuation of The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. Chapter 5. The Vane family learns of the affair. Sybil's family was stunned by the engagement and eager to meet her young suitor. Her mother was initially upset. She had dreamed of Sybil becoming a great actress. Marriage was not in her plans for her daughter. "Mother, I'm so happy," whispered Sybil, burying her face in the lap of the faded, tired-looking older woman. Her back was turned to the harsh light, and she was sitting in a chair in their dingy parlor. Mrs. Vane winced and put her thin, white hands on her daughter's head. "Happy?" she echoed. "I am only happy, Sybil, when I see you act. You must not think of anything but your acting. Mr. Isaacs has been good to us, and we owe him money." The girl looked up and pouted. "Money, mother?" she cried. "What does money matter? Love is more than money." "What do you know of this young man? You don't know his name. However, as I said before, if he is rich—" Mrs. Vane let her suggestion hang in the air. "Mother, how can you think about money? I can only think about love," Sybil said, her eyes sparkling. Yes, if Sybil made a good match, it could help further the family's position in society, thought Mrs. Vane. So she had only one question for her smitten daughter. Was the young man rich? Sybil, who sang the praises of her fiancé, Prince Charming, assured her mother that he was a fine young gentleman, both wealthy and wonderful. At that moment the door opened, and a young lad with rough brown hair came into the room. James Vane, Sybil's brother, was stocky. His hands and feet were large and somewhat clumsy in movement. Nor was James as easily impressed as his greedy mother. He was very attached to Sybil. He feared that her fiancé, a rich and carefree fellow, was just playing with her affections. Why would such a man, who could keep company with a well-bred society lady, he wondered, marry a woman from the lower classes? James Vane looked into his sister's face with tenderness. "I want you to come for a walk with me, Sybil. I'm off to Australia tomorrow, and I don't suppose I shall see this horrid London again." "I'll change my clothes and meet you in a few minutes," Sybil replied as she mounted the stairs. "Oh, James," cried his exasperated mother, "I wish you would stay here and get a job as a clerk in an office. Lawyers are a very respectable class, and in the country often dine with the best families. It pains me that you are leaving for Australia. I don't think there is any kind of society in the colonies." "I hate offices, and I hate clerks," he replied. "I have chosen my own life. All I ask is that you watch over Sybil. Don't let her come to any harm. Mother, you must protect her." "James, you talk so strangely. Of course I will watch over our Sybil. I hear a gentleman comes every night to the theater and goes backstage to talk to her. What about that?" Mrs. Vane quickly explained to James that she had no doubt that the young man was a perfect gentleman. "He's always most polite to me," she said, "and he looks rich and cultured." "You don't know his name, though," said the man harshly. "No," admitted his mother, with a placid expression on her face. "He has not yet revealed his real name. He is probably a member of the aristocracy, and if he is wealthy, there is no reason," slyly suggested Mrs. Vane, "why Sybil should not marry him." James Vane bit his lip. "Watch over Sybil, mother," he said again. "Please watch over her." "My son, you distress me very much. Sybil is always under my special care. If this man is a gentleman and wealthy, there's no reason why she should not wed. He has the appearance of an aristocrat. I must say it would be a brilliant marriage for Sybil. They would make a charming couple. His good looks are really quite remarkable. Everybody notices them." James muttered something to himself and drummed on the window with his fingers. He had just turned around to speak when the door opened and Sybil ran in. "How serious you are!" she cried. What's the matter?" "Nothing," James muttered. "I suppose one must be serious sometimes. Goodbye, Mother. I will have my dinner at 5 o'clock. Everything is packed." "Come, Sybil," added her brother. "Let's go for a walk now." They went out into the flickering, wind-blown sunlight and strolled down the dreary Euston Road. The people passing by glanced at the unusual couple, a sullen, heavy youth and a graceful, refined-looking girl. James was like a gardener walking with a rose. Sybil, however, was quite unaware of the effect she was producing. She was smiling, thinking of her Prince Charming, and how much she longed to see him again. Her brother James was also thinking about her suitor. "You have a new friend, I hear. Who is he? Why have you not told me about him?" "He means you no good," snarled James. "Stop, Jim," she exclaimed. "You must not speak against him. I love him." "Why, you don't even know his name," answered her brother. "Who is he? I have a right to know." "He's called Prince Charming. Don't you like the name?" "If you only saw him," said Sybil, "you would think him the most wonderful person in the world. When you come back from Australia, you'll meet him. I wish you were coming to the theater tonight. He's going to be there." "I want you to be aware of him," warned James. He insistently expressed his concern for Sybil's happiness. "If your Prince Charming ever hurts you," he growled, "I swear I will kill him." Chapter 6. Lord Henry and Basil discuss the engagement. "I suppose you've heard the news, Basil?" asked Lord Henry that evening. Basil was being shown into the private room at the Bristol where they were having dinner. "No, Harry," answered the artist, giving his hat and coat to the bowing waiter. "What is it?" "Dorian Gray is engaged to be married," said Lord Henry, watching his friend carefully as he spoke. Basil started and then frowned. "Dorian engaged to be married? It is impossible." "It is true," said Lord Henry. "To whom?" Basil wanted to know at once. "To some unknown actress," he replied. "I can't believe it," said Basil. "Dorian is far too sensible." "Dorian is far too wise not to do foolish things now and again, Basil," Sir Henry proclaimed. "Marriage is hardly a thing one can do now and again," Basil reminded his friend. "But I don't say he was getting married. I say he was engaged. There's a difference," smiled Lord Henry in his peculiar way. "But think of Dorian's birth and position and wealth," declared Basil. "It would be absurd for him to marry a girl who wasn't from his class. If you want to make him marry this girl, tell him that, Basil. He is sure to do it then," Lord Henry admonished. "I hope the girl is good, Harry," sighed Basil. "She is better than good. She is beautiful," murmured Lord Henry, sipping a glass of wine. "She may be very beautiful, Harry, but I still don't want to see Dorian tied to a bad woman," Basil stated firmly. "You will see for yourself tonight. We are to see her at the theater. Dorian is joining us here and then taking us to meet her." "But do you approve of it, Harry?" asked the painter, walking up and down the room and biting his lip. "It is probably just some silly, childish infatuation. I never disapprove or approve of anything now," Lord Henry noted. "It is Dorian's decision." Just then Dorian himself entered. He threw off his evening cape and shook hands with both his friends. "Harry, Basil, you both must congratulate me. I have never been so happy." Dorian was flushed with excitement and pleasure, and he looked very handsome. "I hope you will always be very happy, Dorian," said Basil. "How did you decide to propose to this young lady so quickly?" Dorian told the two men that it had happened the previous night. "After I left you yesterday, Harry, I dressed at dinner at an Italian restaurant in Rupert Street and went to the theater. Sybil was performing that night and was wonderful. She is a born artist. I sat in the dingy box enthralled. I forgot that I was in London in the 19th century. When the performance was over, I went behind and spoke to her. Of course, our engagement is a deep secret. I don't know what my guardians will say. All I know, he said, is that I love Sybil Vane, and I want the world to know she's mine. And there is something else, Harry. When I'm with Sybil, I regret what you have taught me. I became a different man with her. The man who could wrong her would be a beast without a heart. She makes me good. When we are together, I forget all your evil, poisonous ideas, Dorian declared. And those are? Asked Lord Henry, helping himself to some dessert. All your theories about life, Dorian replied. With that, the men ended their discussion. They finished dinner and put on their overcoats. A doorman hailed a carriage to take them to the theater. Chapter 7. A Great Disappointment. Lord Henry and Basil were more anxious than ever to meet Sybil Vane as they rode with Dorian in the elegant carriage to the run-down theater. The two men were curious about the young beauty who had captured Dorian's heart. Would they be as infatuated with her as he was? Or was Dorian throwing away his chance to find a more suitable wife? A fat manager with jeweled hands escorted them to their seats. Suddenly, amidst a round of applause, Sybil Vane stepped into the cramped stage. Yes, she was certainly lovely to look at, Lord Henry thought, one of the loveliest women he had ever seen. The scene was from Romeo and Juliet, and all the shabbily dressed actors were on stage. Then Sybil Vane appeared. Her body swayed while she danced. Her hands seemed to be made of cool ivory. The three men watched her performance, a famous scene from the play. It was a very dramatic, moving moment. One Sybil had done many times. Each time she had captivated her adoring audience, but tonight, for some strange reason, Sybil seemed dull and listless. She showed no signs of joy when, as Juliet, her eyes rested on Romeo. Her words were spoken in an artificial manner. She acted very badly, and Dorian Gray grew pale as he watched her. Basil and Lord Henry just dismissed her performance as of someone inexperienced. True, she looked charming, but her acting was terrible. When the second act was over, there came a storm of hisses. Lord Henry got up from his chair and put on his coat. "She's quite beautiful, Dorian, but she cannot act. Let us go." Sybil's failure to impress the audience troubled Dorian deeply. He felt humiliated in front of his best friends. "I'm sorry you both had to waste an evening," he apologized. "She is a commonplace, mediocre actress." "Don't talk like that about anyone you love, Dorian," Basil cautioned. "I should think Miss Vane was ill. Love is more important than art." "Don't worry about it, Dorian," advised Lord Henry. "I don't suppose you will want your wife to act after you are married, so what does it matter? Come to the club with Basil and me, and we will toast to the beauty of Sybil Vane." But Dorian could not be consoled by his friends, and he asked them to leave. "Go away," he cried. "My heart has been broken." He sat through the remainder of the show, then roused to Sybil's dressing room. The girl stood there with a look of triumph on her face. Her eyes were lit with fire. There was a radiance about her. "How badly I acted tonight," she cried. "Horribly," he answered. "It was a dreadful performance. Are you ill?" "I shall never act well again," she mused. "You don't understand, do you? Before I knew you, acting was the only reality in my life. Tonight, for the first time, I saw the sham, the silliness of the theater. You gave me something better. You made me understand what love is. You're more to me than any play could ever be. My love, my Prince Charming, you mean everything to me." "But don't you realize what you've done? You've killed my love for you," Dorian coolly replied. He looked at her harshly. "I loved you because you were great, because you had such talent. Instead, I find you are shallow and stupid. What a fool I was! I will never see you again," he screamed in anger. Sybil became frightened. How could her Prince Charming be so mean to her? He had said he loved her. He had promised her the world. Why had he changed so? Sybil started to cry, and as she fell to the floor she grabbed Dorian's knees, clutching at him for dear life. "Please don't be cruel to me, dearest. I will work hard and try to improve myself. I promise you I will be a better actress next time. I love you so much. Please don't leave me," she begged. Dorian looked down at her with angry eyes. His upper lip curled in disdain. He became hard and brutal. Her eyes did not melt his icy heart. He flung Sybil aside and turned on his heel. "I'm going," he said in a calm, clear voice. "I can't see you any more. You have bitterly disappointed me." With that, he stormed out of the theater. Chapter 8. The Horror Begins. Dorian wandered around the Covent Garden for hours that night, upset and confused. Huge carts filled with flowers rumbled slowly down the empty streets. He watched the farmers unload their wagons. All the while he was racked by pain and disappointment. In the morning, tired and exhausted, he returned to his mansion. As he opened the door, his eyes fell on the portrait Basil Howard had painted of him. He was startled by what he saw. The face appeared to have changed. Was such a thing possible? It was strange, but the expression was different. There was a touch of cruelty in the mouth that had not been there before. Could he be dreaming? Dorian examined the painting more closely. He opened the blinds. The bright dawn light flooded the room. The strange expression on the painting remained. He picked up a mirror and examined his own face. His features were the same, only the mouth of the painting was distorted. He wasn't dreaming. It was horrible. What did it mean? He threw himself into a chair to think. Suddenly he remembered the words he had spoken in Basil's studio the day the painting was finished. He had made a crazy wish. He asked to remain young and for the portrait to grow old. Now his mad desire had come true. Dorian's face would remain young and handsome, and the canvas would bear the burden of his sins. But such things were impossible. It seemed monstrous to think of them, and yet there was the picture before him, with that definite touch of cruelty in the mouth. Dorian, a selfish man, thought only of his own destiny. He did not think about the pain he had caused Sybil Vane. Instead, he reserved his pity for a great work of art. He was saddened that its beauty had changed. He suddenly realized that this scary painting held the secrets of his life. It told his story. It had changed already. Its gold would wither into gray. Its color, fire, would die. It was terrible. For every sin that he committed, his portrait would pay the price. What had he done? Would a painting teach him to hate his own soul? Frightened by this mystery, Dorian resolved never to sin again. He would resist temptation. He would not see Lord Henry any more, not listen to his poisonous theories. Dorian decided that he would go back to Sybil Vane, make his apologies, and marry her. He realized that he had been selfish and cruel to Sybil. But he would make it up to her. They would be happy, and their life together would be beautiful and pure. Dorian Gray got up from his chair and drew a large screen right in front of the portrait, shuddering as he glanced at it. He walked to the door and opened it. When he stepped out on the grass, he drew a deep breath. The fresh air seemed to drive away all his demons. His thoughts were only of Sybil as he went to bed at last. Chapter 9. A Rude Awakening. It was long past noon when he awoke. Victor, his French valet, had crept several times on tiptoe into the room to see if he was stirring. Finally his bell sounded, and Victor came in quietly with a cup of tea and a pile of letters. After a few minutes Dorian got up, threw on a cashmere bathrobe, and went into the bathroom. The cool water refreshed him, and he seemed to forget the argument of the previous night. He returned to his bedroom, sipped some weak tea, and looked over his letters. One was from Lord Henry, and had been brought by a messenger that morning. He hesitated, and then put it aside. The others he opened. They contained the usual assortment of invitations to dinner, tickets to private art shows, and programs for charity concerts. Suddenly his eyes fell on the screen that he had placed in front of the portrait. Was it all true? Had the portrait really changed? Or had it simply been his overactive imagination that had made him see a look of evil where there had been a look of joy? Surely a painting could not change. He knew that when he was alone, he would have to examine the portrait. When the coffee had been brought, Victor left the room, and then Dorian rose from the bed and threw himself down on a Spanish couch that stood facing the screen. What if by some fate or deadly chance someone else should see the horrible change? What would he do if Basil wanted to see his picture again? Dorian got up and locked both doors. At least he would be alone when he looked upon his mask of shame. Then he drew the screen aside and saw himself face to face. It was perfectly true. The portrait had changed. It was incredible. How could such a thing occur? Was there some connection between the picture painted on the canvas and the soul that was within him? He gazed at the picture in sickened horror and fear. Dorian realized that one thing the change the portrait had done was to make him see how unjust, how cruel he had been to Sybil Vane. It was not too late to make amends. She could still be his wife. His selfishness would be transformed into some nobler passion. Finally, he decided to write a letter to Sybil, to beg her forgiveness, and say how much he loved her. As he finished his letter, there was a knock at the door. His servant announced that Lord Henry was anxious to see him. Without waiting for permission, Lord Henry rushed into Dorian's bedroom. "I'm so sorry, Dorian," Lord Henry began. "Do you mean about Sybil Vane?" Dorian asked. "Did you go see her after the play?" his friend inquired. "Yes, and I was brutal to her," admitted Dorian. "But I'm better now. I've decided that from now on I will be good. I want to marry Sybil, and I'm going to go see her today and ask her to forgive me for being terrible." "It's too late," cried Lord Henry. "Sybil Vane is dead." A cry of pain broke from Dorian's lips, and he leapt to his feet. "Dead? Sybil dead? It isn't true. It's a horrible lie. How dare you say it?" "It is quite true, Dorian," said Lord Henry gravely. "It is in all the morning papers. I wrote you this morning and asked you not to see anyone until I came. There will be an inquest, of course, and you must not be mixed up in it. There would be a terrible scandal if you were. Do they know your name at the theater?" he asked. "If they don't, it's all right. Did anyone see you going to her dressing room last night? That is important." Dorian did not answer for a few moments. He was dazed with horror. Finally he stammered in a stifled voice, "Harry, I cannot bear it. Please tell me everything that happened." And we will continue this story next Friday or Saturday. And thanks for listening to Miss Retro Reads.